This is a documentary about a house on Jungmanova Street, near the center of Prague in the Czech Republic. About the 4+4+4 Days in Motion festival held in May of 2006. About the location of this house, its establishment as a standing work of art, and how this status impacted the festival participants. It is about the patrons as they entered a building replete with code violations, small children in tow struggling up the steep and dangerous staircases, pressed to question whether one thing was art, or perhaps just some refuse left behind. It is about an organized confusion which encouraged artists to continue preparing and developing installations after the day of the opening. Indeed, this is a piece about the delicate interconnections which existed between the festival participants and the mutual benefits of which exceeded the sum of its parts. Throughout the festival, as I maintained my own installation, I talked with many Czech artists while documenting their work and the house, and as I moved through the mysterious, Kafkaesque warren of rooms and hallways, I learned the necessity of retracing my steps over and over to discover and rediscover new and changed installations. For this was part of a larger concept, one which encouraged patrons to return to the house, to remount the stairs, stepping carefully around the clutter, and to observe a festival in progress in a house on Jungmanova. Can you tell me your name, please?
Miloš Vojtěchovský.
Miloš Vojtěchovský, a festival curator, told me of an installation by local Czech artists who collected old medical supplies and equipment which they then used to create installations of faux medical environments. Within this house, the transplant was especially effective, in part because the building had been used for many years as a dental clinic. Early on in the event, patrons were seen innocently showing off the surgical tools they had found, causing the artists to install a clear shield at the entrance to their installation. This documentary is also about the social usefulness of venues which exercise the continuum between white box galleries and rough alternative spaces, like this house on Jungmanova. As well as the spectrum of possible aesthetic interventions available to artists in a building which also doubles as a work of art.
To find an empty house in the center of Prague is really difficult, or to find access to the empty house is almost impossible, so it's an incredible luck or effort of the people who managed to organize it. And Prague actually doesn't really have such space which would be more permanent or even like changing from location to location, where people would have like free access and they can behave differently.
No, it was difficult to find the house. It was not difficult to open it for the public because the house is private. So when we got the approval from the owner, we didn't ask anybody else if we can open it or not. So it was like the most difficult thing about the whole project was to find the place. And then it was also difficult because it was really a small time before the start. to put it all together, to have it like one, to be it as a whole. But we got, actually the whole project is organized in the cooperation with the City Council of Prague. They gave us the grant, so they know about it. They just didn't know the location because we didn't know the location. And they actually, the mayor of City Council of Prague one, he really helped us to find this place. It is actually his
The choice for this house very fortunate since it's quite big. People can somehow find their own venue there, and people can wander around. It's not clear. It's more like labyrinth than official spaces like museum or gallery where you just come in one or two spaces and this is the situation, this is the art, this is not art. Here you have to use your brain a little bit to understand.
That the first reactions when they stepped in was like negative.
Protože ten prostor byl hrozně dlouho zavřený a byl hodně jako zanesený.
Because the space was closed for a long time.
Ale jako nějakým způsobem každýho přitahoval, takže.
But it attracted the people in some way.
Naděje, že vznikne něco důležitého.
So we had the hope that there will be some interesting and important things that will happen here.
I was very surprised because it's very dirty, maybe disgusting building, and maybe it's dangerous to get in. We know that it was like 10 years ago, it was a dentist clinic, but my feeling was that this place was where the crazy people are.
My first impression was that it's very beautiful, that the walls and the structures, the surface of the walls just talk by own language, and it was very great impression. And that time I had in my mind, and I already started my project about photographing architecture of homeless people. It connected to me very naturally that maybe my pictures would fit here very well because it's like abandoned house, maybe could be used as a squat.
So when we first came here, this room was full of dirt and full of bird rubbish and these things because they were all the time living here, and full of flies also. And as we planned to make the room quite simple and empty, he made this idea that maybe it should be quite nice to have this little thing inside, which just make it more like closer to the rest of the building. And also the first plan was not to cover all these things inside with dirt, the sound speakers and lamps and these. But then we just rather clean it because of people are sitting on the ground.
I like very much also this kind of still lives here, which were like art by itself. So I was thinking, is it really necessary to do it something with it or not? And why? Because it's a really interesting house here, just by itself.
Our students are very flexible and they like to make some improvisation, some object performance in very special, unknown, atypic places.
Jakože jestli jsme to nějak kontrolovali nebo ne, tak to jsme kontrolovali, že jo?
Kontrolovali. Jako jasně, že jsme to kontrolovali. Třeba opravdu, já nevím, co to říká, ale...
The dramaturgy of it, or the curatorship, was about to find artists and people who work in the way that they would like to correct something.
A ta indikace jako...
To show us some situations which are not important, but the society is concentrated on it or is orientated towards it.
A ty umělci, kteří jsou vybraní, tak vlastně nějakým způsobem narušují.
And the artists, they disturb this orientation with their piece. So that was the concept of this conceptual exhibition.
And it was just open call, who is interested. Here they can just check, what people are thinking about. They have to really take a chance to find resources for the installation, to choose for the most efficient way. I think it's the only way for the contemporary artist to go into society or the public, to confront what is real and what is not real.
I like this connection with this place just because otherwise you can do it in some kind of normal gallery or something like that. If you want to exhibit collection of your paintings, then I think why especially here.
White box galleries, like a good frame, should not interfere with the art they present, and even have an amplifying effect. Alternative spaces, like the Jungmanova house, are messy and visually intrusive. They are filled with refuse, code violations, broken windows, pigeon shit, leaky roofs, broken plumbing, and inadequate power. Clearly, art that is created for a white box gallery may not work in a rough, alternative space. I think of traditional white box galleries as transparent vehicles which focus attention on the art as well as the individuality and will of the artist. By comparison, alternative spaces, as represented by the house on Jungmanova, are opaque because they impede access to the art and artist individuality while raising many difficulties, logistical and otherwise. The more opaque a venue is, the more likely it will function as an artifact, or as an anthropomorphic structure, which in turn will engage the artist in a form of aesthetic negotiation. As the venue shifts toward opacity, there is less room for controlled meaning as the artist is absorbed by the mechanics of the integration process. For the patron, too, the opaque venue provides a non-traditional role and increased opportunities for aesthetic investigation. Therefore, the more opaque a venue is, the more it becomes an artifact and an anthropomorphic structure. The more an artist must engage the house in conceptual negotiation. The less the artist has access to willful meaning and metaphor. The less an artist is able to express willful individuality. The more likely an artist will embrace new ideas. The increased responsibility of the patron to critically assess what is and what isn't art. And finally, the increased benefit to society. Here are 10 ways an artist might connect with an opaque venue. Number 1. Do nothing. This could be a reaction to the complexity and beauty of the presentation space, where the artist chooses to do nothing or to intervene only to the extent of an attribution. One could, for example, claim an enclosed space where existing conditions are acceptable, and perhaps beyond what the artist is capable of anyways. After all, atrophy can be quite beautiful. A gesture of this sort could also be taken as an act of preservation, an acknowledgement of nature's deft and alluring hand. To frame this decision, that is, to make it clear to others, while reserving and protecting the room, it is necessary to sign the piece by posting an attribution. Number 2. Subtle extension. An artist may choose to interfere only slightly with the existing conditions through a minor alteration. Here, as before, the subtlety of the gesture will run the risk of being missed by patrons and will require overt framing and attribution. Such an intervention should also have a recognized level of systematic regularity to it, an aspect of humanness not usually associated with nature. While the patrons attending an opaque venue are always questioning what is art and what isn't art, there are limits to their detective skills. Number 3. Ironic amplification. An artist may choose to emphasize an existing condition through a sense of irony. Here, some playfulness might exist as patrons are already in a state of clan confusion and not always certain of what they are looking at anyways. This was the case where one artist painted shadows over existing shadows. Number 4. Imposed amplification. An artist may choose to impose alien characteristics on top of existing conditions, as was the case with Michaela Petra's work. Here, the intervention surmises what might have been, given the history of the building, and then reinstates it.
I just came to this room, I found it, this whole wall, like, very beautiful, with these colors and structures, and I was thinking what it was here. And I found it, it must be some kind of waiting room on big space. Then I made pictures and put these images together and just suppose what it could be to stay on this wall. And because time changed it so much here, these objects probably were there, but they were took out. And there stayed just empty spaces like this silhouette. You can say, I don't see anything, but it thing's really very tender. But it's nice that if you come closer, you see there was something.
It's not feminist question, it's not this one. But I'm stitching some embroideries, which the Czech women they are using for the wall. And there's some notices, how they can be a good mother, good woman in the kitchen, how they can clean perfectly. And I'm using these notices for different meanings. The women, they are in the kitchen and they are thinking about them man, about the sex with this man, with this husband, and there's a different meaning. In this typical kitchen textile, there is written some notices, but the picture is erotic. I was thinking that here in this clinic, also there were doctors and sisters. They also like to have the love story with the sisters.
Number 5. On-site recontextualization. An artist may choose to use materials from other parts of the building, like the sound of the first floor transformer buzzing, or the many doors which were laying about abandoned, and then to relocate and recontextualize them elsewhere.
I've been always interested in buildings like these, so I was always trying to get in some and just walk there, maybe sometimes make some photos and these things. And when first I saw photos of this building before I came here, and I was really looking forward to get inside. And when I arrived here, I was fascinated that it's so big. There are so many variety spaces with different atmospheres, and there is some kind of ghost which is really great. And I think that most of visitors here are impressed by the building a lot, and it also makes a link between all those things inside, as usually does every gallery. But here most of the people were impressed by it, and it's visible in the work here. Because of Omba, we would like to use it on many spaces, but we would like to always make version just exactly for the space that it will be installed. We found those lamps here. We were looking for some kind of lamps like this for a long time. When we found them in 4th floor, we were like, oh God, it's great that we can have them. And so I think that this building is perfect source of a material you can recycle or you can use for your stuff here.
Number 6. Off-site recontextualization. An artist may choose to merge an alien environment with the opaque venue.
I didn't feel very optimistic atmosphere because of the hospital, so I wanted to make some kind of heaven from calendars, pictures from calendars, which you can find in hospital, or like space from film of director Tarkovsky from Russia. Its name is Stalker, the film. It's very similar, like very old industrial space, and inside is heaven, so it's like that.
Bude to hrozný tlusták, většinou bude tam jediný recept a...
Number 7. Extreme intervention. This is possible in an opaque space like the Jungmanova house, where the building is slated for complete remodeling or removal, where the damage incurred will be of little or no consequence. What's going on? What's going on? Maybe she's jack loose on the mic. She's telling me about a time when, as a small child, her mother left her alone at home, and when the mother did not return, she became hysterical. She becomes to a point where she could move. Then a light appeared above her, which ascended in a column. And after a bit, she's no longer afraid. This, she says, is where she found out about God. Where she found out about God.
People can walk in? What? People can walk in. They've been walking in.
Number 8. Amplified dissimilarity. In an inverse relationship to what happens in a traditional gallery, an artist may choose to use the rough environment to contrast and amplify their work. This option is the most transportable, even to the white box venues, as it may lack any hint of site specificity.
If I can I ask you, because I don't know the pronunciation of one word, and it's Plague. Plague, yeah. So the another thing that when was plague in history, the people built a skull, and it was symbol of end of suffering, and for me was God the end of suffering, the way which I found. So that's it.
Number 9. Self-referencing. As many artists inspected the rather scary Jungmanova house before the festival, some experienced an intense fear in reaction to its dark, dirty, damp, and overall complexity. Pigeons were everywhere, some fluttering in your face.
I was here just for the first time, just to see the first floor, and I didn't want to see all the other places, because I wanted to be like for the first time in this place. When I walked through this house with a helmet, and it was really scary because I didn't see anything except the pictures that I shoot through the camera, and I was all the time crashing the walls, and also the perspective that I saw was really different from normal view, and it was really. I was always lost and walking through the one room, and I couldn't get out. I was thinking how to tell the people what I experienced, and I decided to connect it with a sound where you can see how the birds are crashing to my helmet, and I really didn't know what's going on. And also you can see my breath going through the helmet, and I think that it helps to make the atmosphere that I experience. Because we are surrounded by these technical images, by these photographs, and we accept the world from these photographs, and I wanted to also look through the camera to see how you can experience the world just with this technical apparatus.
Number 10. Social relativity. An artist may choose to link their concept with the spirit of the house itself, with its history or regional lore.
Even if it's not reality, it can be just a metaphor for something. It is because Jewish community disappeared from Prague, more or less, like 90% disappeared, and we are now in a house where all the life before the war and after the war disappeared, and for 15 years it was empty. So you have this feeling of void, an uncanny void in a way. So even this metaphor to Jewish context and something unhuman as the Odradek is, which is not clear if it's evil or good. You know, it's can work. You know, so.
I know about the area because here was the Jewish cemetery and they was building some new buildings around and they was taking the bones off. So it was big demonstration because I'm from Jewish community and they was really against it, like because it's against the tradition. So I was in this place, but from different reason than this building. And now it's interesting that it's here. I do a lot some radio transmitting, which in the internet, but I like more the old way, like FM transmitting, and I'm trying to use some very normal devices, like different ways. So now I'm using radios and it's very simple. I prepare the radio and I put the speaker directly on the button of the cup or this, and just longer wires. I had just one problem with it, that in the beginning I put this antenna inside and so this is our temporary radio station just for this festival. It's Radio Jungmann. In Czech Republic was people speaking German a lot, and Czech language was really like some few people was speaking Czech, and Jungmann came with the idea to teach the Czech in the schools and this, and he made some dictionary. But it's the name for this radio. It's more because it's in the street. But we try to use his text.
The capitalist system and kind of social patterns or psychological patterns are quite young here, so there is still kind of like imperfection in the system, a lot of like leaks. The insurance company doesn't have as strong position as maybe in Western Europe or United States. So from the point of like security, I think it's quite possible to organize things which maybe would be much more difficult somewhere else. But this is not illegal project. It's a project which is somehow pushed through by the people who are supported by Municipal of Prague. So there is a kind of official stamp on it that it's possible to do it, and it's, in a way it's partly on the responsibility of the organizer that nothing wrong will happen. But this is a kind of model and situation which can be similar to any intervention in a public space. It doesn't have to be inside, it can be also outside. What you dare to do, what you are able to do before you get like clash with the authority or control structures or bodies or whatsoever.
I think that using the old space like this, it's a really great idea, and I think this festival is very well done and it's very well organized, and I'm glad that it happened, because the spaces are full of people during the day, in the evening, and it's great that it's in the center of the city, empty house, and normal people, young people just come in the house, and for those 12 days it became to be part of the city life, which I'm really glad that it happened.